So the topic is, as indicated there, Introduction to Biology, Form 1. Now, we'll start on a very basic foundation in that Form 1s learnt a subject by the name science in primary school. But when you get to secondary school, that science is divided into a number of branches, and one of those branches is biology. So it is important, first of all, to explain what shall we be learning or what shall we be studying in biology as a new subject. So the question I want us to ask ourselves is, what is biology? That's the question that I want each and every student to ask himself or herself. Biology is a branch of science, and this branch of science deals with the study of living organisms, also known as living things. So we can say that biology is a branch of science that deals with the study of living organisms. So in this topic, or in this subject, we shall be learning about plants, we shall be learning about animals, and we shall be learning about other living organisms that are in existence. For example, we have some organisms that we call microorganisms, and they are referred to as microorganisms because they are microscopic. They can only be seen by use of a microscope. Things like bacteria, things like fungi. So we'll be mentioning them here and there as we continue, and they are part of the living organisms that we shall be discussing. First of all, I would want us to learn about the branches that we have in biology. Now that we have already learned that it is the science that deals with the study of living organisms. We have two main branches, and these are, one, zoology, which is the study of animals, and botany, which is the study of plants. So we can say branches of biology. And you can see that there are two main branches of biology, and these are, one, we have botany, which is the study of plants, and we have zoology, which is the study of animals. Now, those are not the only branches that we have. We have other branches that are smaller, but we are saying that these are the main ones, whereby we study the plants in botany and we study animals in zoology. And plants and animals They are part of the living organisms that we are discussing here. Now, it is also important to look at other branches of biology. The other smaller branches of biology, there are many, very, very many. For example, we can have the study of insects under the zoology. We can have the study of birds, still under the animals. We can have the study of fish. We can have the study of so many things, all of them that are covered by the main branch of science, which is biology. Now, we'll just mention a few. For example, we'll mention a branch of biology called microbiology. And this is the study of microorganisms. The study of microorganisms. Microorganisms are microscopic organisms, such as the bacteria. We can have a fungi, etc. These are small organisms that can only be seen by use of a microscope. Then we have a branch called genetics. It is the study of inheritance and variation. We may want to understand where we came from. We came from our parents. We inherited some characteristics from our parents. So genetics deals with the study of inheritance, what we have inherited, what organisms have inherited from their parents. Also, we have a branch called ecology, and this is the study of living organisms and their interaction. With the environment, with their environment. For example, you may want to study the lions that are in the savannah or the gazelles that are in the savannah. Those are living organisms interacting with the environment that is now in the grassland. So that study is what we call ecology. We have the study of insects. We call it entomology. We have pathology as another study, and this is the study of disease causing microorganisms. We have the study of birds called ornithology. We have the study of fish called ichthyology. This is the study of fishes. The branches are very, very many. We have cytology, study of cells, and we say that the cells are the smallest unit of life. The smallest unit of life is a cell. So when you study the cell, you are studying cytology. So basically there are so many. We have not even exhausted the list that we have. For example, we even have biotechnology. The study of development of techniques that are applicable in various processes we have biochemistry, the study of compounds found in living organisms, study of chemical. So the list is long, but we'll just end there. But there are so many branches that we shall encounter as we move on with learning biology. So basically what we have done today is to discuss that biology is a branch of science that deals with the study of living organisms. We have seen two main branches of biology, that is botany, the study of plants, and zoology, the study of animals. We have also said that these are not the only branches. There are other branches such as microbiology, study of microorganisms. These are the organisms that are too tiny to be seen with our naked eyes. We can only see them with a microscope, bacteria, and so on and so forth. We have genetics, the study of inheritance and variation. Ecology, the study of living organisms and their interaction with the environment. We have entomology, the study of insects. Pathology, the study of disease-causing microorganisms. Ornithology, the study of birds. Ichthyology, the study of fishes. Cytology, the study of cells. We have seen biotechnology, the study of development of techniques that are applicable in various processes. And then biochemistry, the study of chemical compounds found in living organisms. So basically those are some of the main branches that we have. So we are going to have a short assignment on this. So the first question, what is biology? You'll get that from what we have covered today. Name the two main branches of biology, that is the main ones. What is genetics? B, biotechnology, and C, anatomy. So we are going to stop there for today. We'll continue from there next time.
Enroll your child with the manifested e-learning platform and see their grades grow tremendously. These videos can be downloaded to a laptop for offline viewing or viewed from a smartphone in a course-friendly format.
Hello learners, welcome to Manifested e-learning platform. The subject is science. We will continue with the topic environment. Welcome to the lesson. The subject is science, standard 8, the unit environment. The unit is environment. We will proceed from where we stopped in our last lesson. Learners, under this topic, environment, so far we have defined soil pollution. We learned about the harmful substances that can pollute the soil. In our last lesson, we discussed the effects of soil pollution on plants and also the effects of soil pollution on animals. That's what we have covered so far under the topic environment. In our today's lesson, we will define the term soil conservation. We are going to define soil conservation. We also highlight the different methods that can be used to conserve the soil. So learners, the subtopic here is soil conservation. Soil conservation. We will start by defining soil conservation. Then we will list some of the methods that can be used to conserve soil. Now, learners, soil conservation is the act of protecting soil from pollution. Soil conservation is the act of protecting the soil from pollution. And learners, you will recall that pollution is the introduction of harmful substances into an object. For example, soil. When we say soil pollution, we mean the introduction of harmful substances into the soil. So, learners, soil conservation then, we are defining it as the act of protecting the soil from pollution, or we can say, or destruction by natural or human activities, or destruction by natural or human activities. So soil pollution can occur due to destruction by natural or human activities. There are certain activities that human beings engage in that pollute the soil. So soil conservation is the act of protecting the soil from destruction by natural or human activities, or it may be defined as the act of protecting the soil from pollution. So, learners, soil conservation is the act of protecting soil from pollution or destruction by natural or supernatural activities. And it involves proper use and care and protection of soil so that it can continue being productive and also useful to plants and animals. Learners, in Standard 7, we learned the usefulness of soil to the environment. We learned how soil is useful to plants, how soil is useful to animals. So learners, soil conservation involves proper use, care, and protection of soil. It involves proper use. Let me write that point down. It's an important point. It involves proper use, care, and protection of the soil. It involves proper use, care, and protection of soil so that it can continue being productive and useful to plants and animals. Soil is very important to plants and animals because one of the reasons why soil is important to plants is that the soil supports plant growth. Soil contains the food that plants require for growth, and these plants are used by animals for food. So if there is no soil, or if soil is not properly taken care of and protected, then that will affect human life, that will affect the life of animals, it will also affect the life of plants. So soil conservation can be done, learners, by maintaining soil fertility. All right, soil has to be fertile. That means soil has to contain the necessary nutrients that will support plant growth. So soil conservation can be done by maintaining soil fertility, by reducing or eliminating soil pollution. Soil pollution, that is introduction of harmful products, substances to the soil, and also preventing soil erosion. So learners, soil conservation, I'm repeating, can be done through maintaining soil fertility. Soil conservation can be done by maintaining soil fertility. Learners, I hope as I'm writing, you also make sure you write. Okay? Then reducing, we're saying here, soil conservation can be done by 1, maintaining soil fertility, reducing or eliminating soil pollution, reducing or eliminating soil pollution, or avoiding or preventing soil erosion, and preventing soil erosion. preventing soil erosion, because soil erosion causes the soil to lose its fertility. So soil conservation can be done by maintaining soil fertility, reducing or eliminating soil pollution, or preventing soil erosion. In standard 7 again, we learned ways in which soil can be polluted. We learned ways in which soil can be polluted. So now, what methods can we use in order to conserve soil? Soil conservation methods. Soil conservation methods. Let's discuss soil conservation methods. Soil conservation methods. What are these methods that we can use in order to conserve the soil? Now, learners, there are different methods which can be used to conserve soil. There are different methods that can be used to conserve soil. There are different methods that can be used to conserve soil. So learners, I'm going to list these methods down. I'm going to list them down first, then we'll discuss the methods one by one. Number 1 is avoiding excessive use of fertilizers. Avoiding excessive use of fertilizers. Insecticides, pesticides, and so on. Avoid excessive use of fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides. Can add herbicides, etc. Avoid excessive use of fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, and so on. Number 2, or B, avoid dumping of waste on soil. Avoid dumping of waste on soil. That is the second method. Number 3, avoid burning. Avoid burning vegetation cover. Avoid burning vegetation cover. D, mulching. E, planting cover crops. Planting cover crops. F, making terraces. F, G, contour farming. H, planting trees. Planting trees. trees. Then we have HI, learners. We've said we are listing soil conservation methods. Soil conservation methods. First one is avoid excessive use of fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, etc. B, we've said avoid dumping of waste on soil. C, avoid burning vegetable cover. D, mulching. E, planting cover crops. F, making terraces. Okay. G, contour farming. H, planting trees. I, construction or constructing gabions. Construction of gabions. Then we have controlled grazing, controlled grazing, controlled grazing. So this is controlled grazing. So these are some of the methods that we can use to conserve the soil, to conserve the soil. So how many methods are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, controlled grazing learners can also be known as proper stocking. Let's write or proper stocking. Goes hand in hand with proper stocking. So learners, we are going to discuss each and every method one by one. In this lesson, we will learn about avoiding excessive use of fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, and so on. So let's explain. I'm going to explain the first method, which is avoiding excessive use of fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides. We also have herbicides, etc. Now, learners, fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides contain chemicals which cause soil pollution when the substances are applied in excess. We are talking of excessive. When insecticides, when herbicides, when fertilizers are applied in excess, that can cause soil pollution. Why? Because these fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides contain chemicals which can cause soil pollution, and that happens when they are used in excess. So learners, we should therefore avoid excessive use of these chemicals, and we should strictly follow instructions when using them, because instructions are always given by manufacturers on how to use these chemicals. Another way to avoid excessive use of these chemicals is to use manure instead of chemical fertilizers in order to improve soil fertility. So where possible, learners, farmers should also use biological methods of pest control and insect control. Instead of using pesticides, instead of using herbicides and other chemicals that contain poison that may pollute the soil. Is that clear, learners? That is the first method, avoiding excessive use of fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, and so on. Because we have said these fertilizers and chemicals and pesticides, they contain chemicals which cause soil pollution. And that happens when these chemicals are applied in excess. So instructions should be followed on how these chemicals are applied on the soil. And we've said that farmers should instead use manure, and where possible they should use biological methods in controlling pests, controlling insects. So learners, that will mark the end of our today's lesson. In our subsequent lessons, we are going to discuss in detail the other methods of conserving the soil, that is avoiding dumping of waste on soil, because this dumping of waste on soil can be done by industries and factories. They can also be done by people, okay, domestically. So we will be discussing all these other methods in our following lessons. Today we will stop at that, but just to recap what we've done in our today's lesson, learners, we introduced soil conservation, whereby we also defined soil conservation as the act of protecting the soil from pollution or destruction by natural or human activities. We've said that soil conservation involves proper use, care, and protection of soil. And soil pollution, we said, also can be done by maintaining soil fertility, reducing or eliminating soil pollution, or preventing soil erosion. Then we have listed the various methods or different methods that can be used to conserve soil. One is avoiding excessive use of fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, and so on. B, avoid dumping of waste on soil. C, avoid burning vegetation cover. D, mulching. E, planting cover crops. F, making terraces. G, control farming. H, planting trees. I, construction of gabions. Then lastly, controlled grazing or proper stocking. So learners, before we stop the lesson, I'm going to give you assignment. This is your assignment. Question 1, what is soil conservation? Question 2, list 5 methods that can be used to conserve soil erosion. Go through the video once more, then close your exercise books and then do the assignment. Thank you for your attention and God bless you.
Enroll your child for the manifested e-learning platform and see their grades grow tremendously. These videos can be downloaded to a laptop for offline viewing or viewed from a smartphone in a cost-friendly format.
Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Hello learners, Welcome to today's biology lesson. My name is Stephen Kariungi. Today, we'll continue with our discussion on introduction to biology, a topic in Form 1. And today we are going to look at collection of specimens. What are specimens? Specimens are materials obtained from living organisms that are used for the study of biology. We can get specimens from plants, from animals, and from other living organisms so that they can enable us to understand biology better by using those specimens. So basically we can say that specimens are materials obtained from plants and animals to aid in the study of biology. Now, these specimens sometimes may be live specimens, whereby we may be required to collect specimens that are alive. For example, insects are live specimens for the study. Other times, we can collect specimens that are not alive. Maybe specimens such as leaves, such as roots, and so on and so forth. Now, when collecting specimens, especially the live specimens, there are some precautions that one needs to take. Some of the specimens can cause injuries. Things like the insects, some can sting, others can bite, others are poisonous, and therefore it is important to take precautions. So it is necessary to understand what are the precautions that are required during collection of live specimens. So the precautions required during collection of specimens: one, we are supposed to collect only the specimens that we need in our study to avoid wastage and destruction. So we should not go collecting specimens that we do not need. So we are supposed to collect only the required number of specimens. So to avoid wastage, we need to collect only the number that we require. Number two, during the specimen collection, we should not destroy the habitats or the homes of those specimens. So care should be taken that we should not destroy the habitats. We should not destroy the habitats of specimens being collected. We will need those habitats in future. Now, when collecting live specimens, care should be taken about those specimens that can cause injuries. They should be handled with care, and they should be handled with the right equipment. For example, if an insect can sting, it's advisable to use the forceps to hold that particular insect or to collect that particular insect. So when collecting injurious specimens, care should be taken by use of appropriate equipment or apparatus. Now, after collecting the specimens and after carrying out the study, live specimens should be returned back to their habitats unharmed, without being harmed at all. So after study, or after the study, the live specimens should be taken back to their habitats unharmed. So we should make sure that those specimens are not harmed at all. Now, we also have some specimens that are highly mobile, that move very fast, like the centipedes. So for those highly mobile specimens, they should be immobilized. They should be slowed down using particular agents so that they can be caught easily. So highly mobile live specimens should be immobilized. Should be immobilized using suitable reagents before collection. So basically, those are the precautions that one requires during the collection of specimens. Now, it is also important to understand which are some of the apparatus used for specimen collection. Apparatus or equipment used We'll name a few. For example, we have the sweep net. This one is for catching flying insects, things like the wasps and so on and so forth. We have the fish net. This one is for catching fish and other animals in water. We have the bait trap. This one is for attracting and traps small mammals, e.g. rodents, such as the rats and the mice. We use the bait trap, whereby the bait attracts them and then they are caught by the trap. We have a putter that is used to suck small crawling animals from rocks or barks of trees, things like the aphids that can easily be sucked. They are sucked using a putter. We have the pitfall trap, and this one is for catching crawling animals which fall into a pit. We have specimen bottles, and these ones are for storage of specimen during collection. So the list is long. There are many apparatus, many equipment that we use during specimen collection, as we have seen. So basically today we have learnt about the precautions that we need to take during specimen collection, that we should not injure the specimen, we should not destroy their habitats, we should only collect the number that we need to avoid wastage. For those specimens that are highly mobile, they should be immobilized by use of suitable reagents before collection. And then finally, after we have completed the study, the live specimens should be taken back to their habitats to avoid, of course, destruction of the ecosystem. Now, also, we have learnt about the apparatus or equipment that we use for specimen collection. There is a sweep net for catching flying insects, the fish net for catching fish and other animals in water, bait trap, this one attracts and traps. So this one attracting and trapping small mammals, e.g. rodents, such as rats and mice. We have a putter for sucking small animals from rocks or barks of trees. We have the pitfall, whereby we catch crawling animals by making them fall into a pit. And then finally, the specimen bottles that are for storage of specimen. So all those are part of the apparatus that we use for specimen collection. So we are going to have an assignment on that. So the first question in the assignment, state and explain 5 precautions that a student should take during specimen collection. Number 2, draw the following apparatus and state their functions. A, putter, B, forceps, and C, a bait trap. So we are going to stop there. See you next time.
Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Hello learners, welcome to our today's lesson. We are learning chemistry form 2. The topic is chemical families and patterns in properties. In our previous lesson, we discussed the reaction of alkali metals with water, where we say that when alkali metals react with water, they lead to formation of an alkaline solution, that is hydroxides of these metals, and hydrogen gas is produced. So I hope you still remember those reactions. You can be able to write the chemical equation. But still remember that I left with the assignment, and the assignment was to write balanced chemical equations for the reaction between lithium and water, sodium and water, and reaction between potassium and water. I hope you have done that. In this lesson, we are going to look at or discuss the reaction between alkali metals and Crinoline gas. So reaction between alkali metals and Crinoline. Therefore, I will start by maybe giving you a small demonstration or illustration on that. So experiment. And the aim of this experiment is just ask yourself the reaction, or is the reaction between sodium and Crinoline. Reaction between sodium and Crinoline. So if we have a simple procedure, the procedure would be first you cut a small piece of sodium metal and put it on a defraggrating spoon. So cut a small piece of sodium metal and place it or put it on a defraggrating spoon. Remember, we said that alkali metals are reactive metals, and therefore you should use small pieces. Defraggrating spoon, I hope you still remember in Form 1, this was one of the apparatus we learned in Form 1, and they say that a defraggrating spoon is used for holding substances as they are being burnt. So deflagrating spoon. Then warm the piece of sodium. Warm the piece of sodium and lower it into a gas jar containing chlorine gas. So after warming the piece of sodium metal which is on a deflagrating spoon, they're supposed now to lower it into a gas jar containing chlorine gas. There's a disclaimer here, there's a precaution. This experiment should take place in a fume chamber or on an open place. The reason is chlorine gas is very poisonous. Chlorine is a poisonous gas, and therefore this experiment should take place in a fume chamber or in an open place. Remember, this chlorine can affect your respiratory system, and therefore that is why you should not come into contact with it. So carry the experiment in a fume chamber. When sodium, or the warm piece of sodium metal which warmed on a deflagrating spoon, then you lowered it into a gas jar containing chlorine, then a reaction is going to take place, and this reaction will lead to, the reaction leads to formation of white fumes. The reaction leads to formation of white fumes, and the white fumes is now sodium chloride. Then the equation for the reaction will be sodium reacts with chlorine gas, leading to formation of sodium chloride solid. Therefore, to balance the equation, you need a 2 and another 2. Therefore, the color of sodium chloride is white. That is the color of sodium chloride. It is white in color. So that's what happens when you do this experiment. Remember again, I've told you that always use small pieces of these metals because sodium is a very reactive metal and it is highly reactive. Remember again, in the previous lesson we said it is very vigorous, or the reaction is more vigorous. Therefore, it can even explode into a flame, and therefore use small pieces. And remember always, experiments involving poisonous gases should take place in a fume chamber. So therefore, that is how sodium reacts with chlorine gas, and that's what I wanted you to understand in this lesson. In the next lesson, we are going to discuss the reaction between chlorine and lithium, and also the reaction between chlorine gas and potassium. But I will leave you with this question, and the question is, write a balanced chemical equation for the reaction between chlorine gas and sodium metal. Chlorine gas and sodium metal. So write a balanced chemical equation write a balanced chemical equation for the reaction between chlorine gas and sodium metal. The next lesson, we are discussing the reaction between lithium and chlorine and also potassium and chlorine. Meet you in the next lesson.
Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Hello, my lovely learners. This is Manifested e-learning platform and I am Teacher Purity. We are going to learn hygiene and nutrition activities for grade 1. So we are starting on a new topic, personal hygiene, and under personal hygiene, we are going to learn about the use of toilets, latrines, and urinals. So welcome to the lesson and hope that you are going to enjoy. Now the use of toilets, latrines, and urinals. What are toilets? What are latrines? And what are urinals? Now toilets, latrines, and urinals are the places where we go to relieve ourselves from our long calls and short calls. So toilets, latrines, and urinals are places we go for our short calls and long calls. So, toilets, latrines, and urinals are the places we go for our short calls and long calls. When you are pressed with long calls or short calls, you'll visit a toilet, latrine, or a urinal. Let's start with the toilet. So, what is a toilet? Now, a toilet is a place where we go to relieve ourselves from our long calls and short calls. And toilets are found inside the house. So toilets are found inside the house, and most toilets have a large round bowl. So take a look of picture of a toilet. Look at it very well. That's a toilet. And we flush toilets after use. Now after you've used the toilets, you are going to flush it. What is to flush? To flush is pouring a lot of water after you have used the toilet. We flush toilets after use. Then we have latrines. Now latrines are found outside the house. So latrines are found outside the house. So latrines are found outside the house. And a latrine is an open pit where you go and relieve yourself from your long call and short call. And they are always found outside the house. They are built outside the house. Now latrines have an open pit. Now latrines have an open pit. We have said that we flush toilets after use. What about latrines? After you've used your latrine, what are you supposed to do? Now after using a latrine, you cover it. We cover latrines after using them. So we cover latrines. We cover latrines after use. So we cover latrines after use. You cover the part that it has an open pit after you have attended your short call or your long call. So on your screen, there's a picture of a latrine. Make sure that you are observing it so that you can know the difference between a toilet and a latrine. And lastly, we have urinals. What is a urinal? Now, a urinal is a place where boys and men go and pass their urine. So, urinals are places where boys and men pass urine. So urinals are places where boys and men pass urine. It is strictly for boys and men, and they are only supposed to pass urine in the urinals. You cannot go for long calls in a urinal. You only go for short calls in a urinal. And boys alone and men are the ones who use urinals. Girls can use a toilet or a latrine. So this is how we are supposed to use toilets, latrines, and urinals. First, toilets are found inside the house, and we flush toilets after use. I said flushing is pouring water after you relieved yourself from your short call or your long call. Remember, if you do not flush a toilet, it will have a bad smell. Then, latrines are found outside the house. Latrines are always built outside the house, and they have an open pit. After using a latrine, you are also supposed to cover it after use. You cover the pit to avoid the bad smell which can come from the latrine. And lastly, we have urinals, which are used by boys and men to pass urine alone. So if you are a boy, make sure that if you visit a urinal, don't pass your long calls in the urinal. That is a very, very bad habit. Pass urine alone in a urinal. Girls, use a toilet or a latrine. So that's all for this lesson. I'm going to give you some questions. You will answer them and meet you next time. So this is the assignment, the instruction. Fill in the gaps with the correct answer. You are going to choose the correct answer from what you have in the brackets and fill in the dashes from question 1 up to question 4. So number 1 reads, boys and men should use a dash to pass urine. The answers in brackets are latrine, urinal. So you select the correct answer and fill in the blank space. Question 2, we dash a modern toilet after use. Clean, wash, or flush. So choose the correct answer. The third question, dash are found outside the house. Latrines, toilets. You write for me the answer. And lastly, it is a dash habit to use a toilet. Bad, good. Select the correct answer and fill in the blank space. So thank you for being good listeners. Hope to see you next time.
Hello learner, welcome to Manifested e-learning platform. My name is Purity Anzelimo, and our subject today, what I'll be taking us through is physics. Yes, and during our lesson today, we are going to look at electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum is a topic in book 4. That is what we are going to look at during our lesson. So we have the electromagnetic spectrum. And as I've said, is one of the topics in book 4, and this we are going to relate a lot with what we covered in book 2 under the topic waves. So we are going to borrow a lot from the topic waves in book 2 and also in book 3. Yeah, because as you can see, we have the electromagnetic spectrum, and in book 2 we learned about the electromagnetic waves. So by the end of this lesson, you should be in a position 2. So we have the objectives for this lesson. You should be in a position 1 to describe fully a complete spectrum. That is a complete electromagnetic spectrum. You should be in a position to explain what an electromagnetic spectrum is. So by the end of the lesson, you should be in a position to explain the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum. That's 1. And number 2, by the end of this lesson, you should be in a position to state the properties of electromagnetic waves. State the properties of the electromagnetic waves. State the properties of the electromagnetic. We abbreviate it as EM, electromagnetic waves. So that is what you should be in a position to, by the end of the lesson, explain the electromagnetic spectrum. What is an electromagnetic spectrum, as we have our topic, and what are the properties of the electromagnetic waves. So to begin with, we are going to deal with, or we are going to define what we are calling the electromagnetic waves, so that we can be able now to define what an electromagnetic spectrum is all about. So we are going to start with electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves. So from Waves Book 2, what are electromagnetic waves? When we talk of electromagnetic waves, we say that these are waves that do not require a material medium for their transmission. They are waves that do not require a material medium for their transmission. That is simply what we refer to as the electromagnetic waves, or what we call the EM waves. They are waves that do not require a material medium for their transmission. Remember, we gave 2 categories of waves in Form 2, whereby we looked at the electromagnetic waves and the mechanical waves. And one of the major differences between the electromagnetic waves and the mechanical waves is that for the electromagnetic waves, they do not require a material medium for their transmission, whereas for the mechanical waves, they require a medium for their transmission. And these electromagnetic waves, again, we can define it as, because we say that all electromagnetic waves are transverse in nature. Remember that all the electromagnetic waves are transverse. They are transverse in nature, meaning that the vibration of their particles is at right angle to the direction of wave travel. And therefore, we can also say that electromagnetic waves, we can say that they are produced by the oscillating electric and magnetic fields at right angle to each other. So we can say that they are produced, or they are formed by the oscillating, they are formed by the oscillation or the oscillating magnetic and the electric fields, and electric fields at right angle with each other. So those are the EM waves. We have seen that they can be transmitted through a vacuum because they do not require a material medium for them to be transmitted. Then we are also saying that all the electromagnetic waves are transverse in nature. And we are saying, therefore, it means that the vibration of their particles is at right angle to the direction of the wave travel. And that's why we are saying that they are produced by the oscillating magnetic and electric fields at right angle with each other. So these are the electromagnetic waves or the EM waves. Now we need to list down those electromagnetic waves that we are talking about. So we list down, they include the electromagnetic waves or the EM waves include. So we have various, or we have electromagnetic waves, examples of electromagnetic waves. We can list them down in any order. We have what we call the gamma rays. Gamma rays is an example of an electromagnetic wave. We also have what we call the microwaves. The microwaves. We also have the visible light. The visible light. We also have the infrared radiation. The infrared radiation. We also have the ultraviolet radiation, or what we call the UV radiation. The ultraviolet radiation. We also have what we refer to as the X-rays. We have the X-rays as an example of the electromagnetic waves. We have the X-rays. So we have the gamma rays, we have the microwaves, we have the visible light, we have the infrared radiation, we have the ultraviolet radiation, and we also have the radio waves. Radio waves. So these are our electromagnetic waves. Remember where we have come from? We want to define an electromagnetic spectrum. And we have started by asking ourselves, what are these electromagnetic waves? And we are saying these are waves that are produced by oscillating magnetic and electric fields at right angle with each other. And we have the list of the electromagnetic waves. We have the gamma rays, we have the microwaves, we have the visible light, we have the infrared radiation, ultraviolet radiation, we also have the X-rays, and we also have the radio waves. Now all these waves that we have listed down are what we are calling the EM waves. And these waves, as we have seen, they are transverse in nature, meaning that also they have sections of crests alternating with troughs. That is what we said in book 2 on waves, that when we talk of a transverse wave, it has sections of crests alternating with troughs. And note that all these electromagnetic waves, we are saying that they are waves in nature. And therefore, when it comes to the properties of the electromagnetic waves, we'll also be looking at some of the properties of waves as learned in book 3 under waves 2. So we have these electromagnetic waves. Now the way they have been arranged, they have been mixed up. There is no formula that I've used to arrange these electromagnetic waves. But now we can arrange these waves in order of their wavelengths or their frequencies. If we arrange these electromagnetic waves in order of their frequencies or in order of their wavelengths, then we are going to form what we call an electromagnetic spectrum. And that's what I want us to do. So we want to arrange these electromagnetic waves, the waves that we have listed down, we arrange them in order of their frequencies or in order of their wavelengths. Remember those two terms, wavelength and frequency. Wavelength, always represented by a Greek letter lambda, and then we have the frequency. Frequency represented by a small letter f. So we have wavelength, and we say that wavelength simply refers to the distance covered in one complete oscillation. So remember that distance covered in one complete oscillation is what we are calling the wavelength. And we say that the SI unit for wavelength is meters. That is the SI unit because it is distance, and distance is length, and the SI unit of length is meter. Then we have frequency, and when we talk of frequency, it simply refers to the number of complete oscillations in 1 second. Number of complete oscillations in 1 second. And we say that the SI unit of frequency is hertz. So that's what we have. Now, we want to arrange these electromagnetic waves in order of their wavelength and in order of their frequency. So, we start with the one that has the smallest frequency. And we have what we refer to as the radio waves. It has the lowest frequency or the smallest frequency, followed by the microwaves. We have the microwaves, followed by the infrared radiation. We also have now the visible light. Visible light. Then we have the ultraviolet radiation. Then we have the X-rays. And finally, we have gamma rays, which have the highest frequency. We have the gamma rays. So if I were to draw an arrow to indicate the increasing frequency, so this is increasing frequency. So we have radio waves. They have the lowest frequency all the way to gamma rays. So gamma rays have the highest frequency. But now when it comes to wavelength, these two are inversely proportional. When it comes to the wavelength, if we have this as the increasing wavelength, then it means that when we'll have it this way now for the wavelength. For the wavelength, we have gamma rays, which have the lowest wavelength. So we have increasing. So we have the increasing wavelength. So you should be keen. We have gamma rays. Gamma rays have the highest frequency, but have the lowest wavelength. They have the highest frequency, but have the lowest wavelength. Then the radio waves have the highest wavelength. The radio waves have the highest or the largest wavelength, but they have the lowest or the smallest frequency. So that is it. So when these electromagnetic waves have been arranged in order of their frequency or in order of their wavelengths, then what they form is what we refer to as an electromagnetic spectrum. So this that we have here, the radio waves, the microwaves, the infrared, the visible light, the ultraviolet radiation, the X-rays, the gamma rays, the way they have been arranged is what we refer to as an electromagnetic spectrum. So for an electromagnetic spectrum, so for the electromagnetic spectrum, we have the following electromagnetic waves. We have seen that when the electromagnetic waves have been arranged in order of their frequency or in order of their wavelength, they form an EM spectrum. So they can be either maybe the increasing frequency or the decreasing frequency, or the increasing wavelength or the decreasing wavelength. So provided they have been arranged in a certain order of their frequencies or their wavelengths, then we'll say that they form an electromagnetic spectrum. So our electromagnetic spectrum, we are going to have, therefore, if we start with the one that has the lowest frequency, that is the radio wave. So we are going to have radio waves. We have the microwaves. We have the infrared radiation or the infrared. We have the visible light. The visible light. We also have the ultraviolet radiation. We also have the X-rays. And finally, we have the gamma rays. So all these arranged in this order, they form an electromagnetic spectrum. And therefore, we can be able to define what an electromagnetic spectrum is. So an electromagnetic spectrum is simply electromagnetic waves arranged in order of their frequencies or wavelengths. So these are electromagnetic waves. They refers to the electromagnetic waves arranged in order of their frequencies or wavelengths. Electromagnetic spectrum refers to electromagnetic waves arranged in order of their frequencies or wavelengths. And as we continue, we'll be able to see, not that we are saying that radio waves have the lowest frequency, gamma rays have the highest frequency. Therefore, we'll be able to see that therefore the 2 or the 7 electromagnetic waves have different energies, or they possess different amounts of energy, because energy depends with the frequency and also the wavelength. So that is the electromagnetic spectrum. So if you are told to define what an electromagnetic spectrum is, then it is simply refers to the electromagnetic waves arranged in order of their frequencies or wavelengths. And we'll continue and get now to the properties. So those are the that is the electromagnetic spectrum, and you should also be in a position to arrange all those electromagnetic waves in order of their wavelengths or in order of their frequencies. So if you know one, for example, you know that the radio waves have the smallest frequency, followed by microwaves all the way to gamma rays. So if you know one of them, the frequency, then you should know that the wavelength is the vice versa, the other way around. So if the radio waves, we are saying that they have the smallest frequency, then it means that they have the largest wavelength. Gamma rays have the highest or the largest frequency, and they have the lowest wavelength. So make note of that, because you can be given in an exam, you are given examples of some electromagnetic waves and you are told to arrange them maybe in order of their increasing wavelength or maybe in order of their decreasing frequency. So make note of that. Then something else I want to emphasize on before we go to the properties of the EM waves. At this point here, the visible light, when we talk of this visible light, as you learned in reflection of light, the dispersion of white light, the visible light comprises of the 7 colors of the rainbow. So here in the visible light is where we have the colors like the red, and we have the region. So in the visible light, we have the region of yolk, gained, button, in vein. So we have the red, we have the orange here, we have the yellow, we have the green here, we have blue, we have indigo, and we have the violet color. So in case maybe you are told that blue light, for example, you are told arrange the following in order of their increasing frequencies. And you are given, for example, infrared, microwaves, X-rays, and you are given blue light. you should know that blue light is one of the visible light, or it's invisible light, because that's what we learned in refraction of light. That's the dispersion of white light, which comprises of the 7 colors of the rainbow. So that is all on the electromagnetic spectrum. You need to know how to arrange these waves in order of their frequencies and wavelengths. So I want us to move on and look at the properties of these waves. Yeah, because we are saying that they are waves in nature, they are transverse waves in nature. So we have various properties of the electromagnetic waves. So let's look at the properties of electromagnetic waves. Properties of electromagnetic waves. And one of the properties that we have just stated when I was introducing the lesson, we have seen that number one, the electromagnetic waves are transverse in nature. They are transverse waves. So number one is that they are transverse in nature. They are transverse in nature. So the EM waves are transverse in nature, and we have seen that they are produced by the oscillating magnetic and electric fields at right angle with each other. So that is one of the properties. Then we have also seen that the electromagnetic waves do not require a material medium for their transmission. So that is another property, that they do not require a material medium for their transmission. And therefore they can also be able to be transmitted through vacuum or through space. So they do not require a material medium for their transmission. Something else that you need to note about the electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves travel with the speed of light. They travel with the speed of light. And the speed of light, that is the speed of light is 3 times 10 power 8 meters per second. So that is another property. They travel through space with the speed of light. They travel with the speed that is 3.0 times 10 power 8 meters per second. So if you are given a question, because we'll now also get into numerical calculations, when you are told, for example, infrared radiation, and you are told maybe to calculate, for example, maybe the energy, you have not been given the speed, always know that the speed of any of the electromagnetic waves is 3.0 times 10 power 8 meters per second. That is for all those electromagnetic waves. So they travel with the speed of light, which is 3.0 times 10 power 8 meters per second. Then something else, because we are saying that these waves, we are saying that they are waves, and therefore they will undergo the following. So they undergo, since they are waves, they undergo diffraction. You talked about diffraction in waves too. They also undergo reflection. They also undergo interference and polarization effects. All these are properties of waves. They undergo diffraction, reflection, interference, and polarization effects. And because these EM waves are also waves, they will also undergo the same. So they undergo diffraction, reflection, interference, and the polarization effects. Then we can also say another property is that they will possess energy. As I had mentioned earlier, we are saying that they have different frequencies. They have different frequencies. Gamma rays having the highest frequency and radio waves having the smallest frequency. So we can also say number 5 that they possess energy. They possess kinetic energy. We can talk of kinetic energy in different amounts depending with the, just talk of energy. They possess energy in different amounts. We are going to do the calculations. You will get the formula that we use to know which one contains higher amount of energy than the other. We'll get to that in our next lesson. So they possess energy in different amounts. And we have seen that since the gamma rays have the largest frequency, they will actually have the highest amount of energy. So just know that they possess energy in different amounts. Then finally, we can say that they carry no charge. Number 6, they carry no charge. And therefore, they are not deflected by either the magnetic or the electric fields. So they are not, we can say that they are not affected by electric and magnetic fields. They carry no charge. So they are neither positively nor negatively charged, but they carry no charge with them. And therefore they are not affected by either the electric, we can add by either, they are not affected by either the electric or the magnetic fields. And those are the properties of the EM waves. We have said that they are transverse in nature. In book 2, you learned what are transverse waves. Transverse waves are waves whose vibration of particles is at right angle to the direction of wave travel. Number 2, they do not require a material medium for their transmission. They can be transmitted through a vacuum. Number 3, they travel with the speed of light, which is 3 times 10 power 8 meters per second. Number 4, waves, they will undergo diffraction, reflection, interference, and polarization effects. And number 5, they possess energy in different amounts. And when we come to the uses of the electromagnetic waves, we'll be able to state the uses depending with also the amount of energy that the electromagnetic wave possesses. Then finally, number 6, we have seen that they carry no charge, and therefore they are not affected by either the electric or the magnetic fields. So that is on electromagnetic spectrum. I would like to do an exercise. Number 1, state 5 properties of the EM waves. State 5 properties of the electromagnetic waves. Number 2, arrange the following in order of their wavelengths. Arrange the following in order of their wavelengths. So we have the following EM waves. We have infrared, green light, ultraviolet radiation, radio waves, and X-rays. So we have the following: infrared, green light, ultraviolet radiation, radio waves, and the X-rays. Arrange them in order of their wavelengths. Then question number 3. Question number 3. Why is sound not an electromagnetic wave? Why is sound not an electromagnetic wave? We know that sound is also a wave, but we are asking, why is sound not an electromagnetic wave? Number 4. Question number 4. Name one radiation of electromagnetic spectrum. Name one radiation of electromagnetic spectrum which has a higher frequency. Name one radiation of EM spectrum which has a higher frequency than the visible light. Which has a higher frequency than the visible light. So name one of it which has a higher frequency than the visible light. And finally, number 5, give two differences. Give two differences between electromagnetic waves and mechanical waves. Give two differences between electromagnetic waves and mechanical waves. So you give two differences between the EM waves and the mechanical waves. Differences between the EM waves and the mechanical waves. So that is all on our lesson today. We have been able to achieve the two objectives that we had. One, to define an electromagnetic spectrum, which we have said an electromagnetic spectrum simply refers to the electromagnetic waves arranged in order of their wavelengths or frequencies. Then number 2, we've also been in a position to state the properties of the EM waves. And they are here. We have said they are transverse in nature. They do not require material medium for their transmission, travel at the speed of light, undergo diffraction, reflection, interference, and polarization effects. They possess energy in different amounts, carry no charge, and hence not affected by either the electric or the magnetic fields. So that is it. When you do this exercise, you'll be in a position to see whether you have captured the lesson well. And during our next lesson, we'll now be calculating this energy. Now that we are saying that they possess energy in different amounts, we'll now be able to calculate the energy that is possessed by the electromagnetic waves. Thank you for following. Till we meet next lesson.
Habari zenu tena wanafunzi na wakereketwa wote wa lugha ya Kiswahili. Leo tumekutana tena katika mawanda ya lugha ya Kiswahili. Na leo nitawapatia mdokezo kuhusu fasihi. Kuhusu fasihi. Kama nilivyotangulia kusema pale awali, fasihi ni somo mojawapo ambalo liko katika Kiswahili na limeorodheshwa katika karatasi ya 3. Karatasi ya 3 katika mtihani. Katika fasihi imegawanywa mara 4, lakini ni 3 kwa moja. Kwanza kabisa kuna fasihi andishi, halafu kuna fasihi simulizi. Katika fasihi andishi kuna vitabu viteule hapa ambavyo huwa kwa kawaida ni 3. Kitabu cha kwanza ni riwaya. hii ni hadithi ya mfululizo wa moja kwa moja. Kuanzia mwanzo hadi mwisho, mwandishi ameandika yale aliyokuwa anataka kuwasilisha katika wasomaji wake ama hadhira ama umma katika mtiririko. Halafu kuna hadithi fupi. Katika hadithi fupi, huu ni mkusanyiko wa waandishi wale ambao wamebobea katika lugha ya Kiswahili. Na hapa kila mtu hupewa jukumu la kuandika hadithi yake kulingana na mazingira ya jambo ambalo amepewa azungumzie. Halafu hapa kuna tamthilia. Tamthilia ni mchezo wa kuigiza. Tunaweza kusema kwamba katika hivi vitabu vyote, tamthilia ndiyo iko na wahusika hai. Nasema wahusika hai kwa sababu gani? Hapa unaweza ukasimama kwenye jukwaa na kuweza kuelekeza maudhui ya mwandishi moja kwa moja, tofauti na hivi vitabu vingine. Ingawaje kwa sababu ya uchumi, kuna watu hivi sasa wameanza kuvifanyia mazoezi na wanavionyesha kwenye jukwaa. Lakini sana kabisa tamthilia ndio huwa iko na wahusika hai na mara kwa mara huwa inaonyeshwa kwenye jukwaa. Halafu katika fasihi simulizi. Katika fasihi simulizi, hiki ni kitabu tofauti kabisa. Kiko katika mtaala wa somo la Kiswahili. Na kwa sababu ya mageuzi ya mfumo wa elimu, sio kama zamani. Zamani kitabu cha ushairi ama shairi kilikuwa ni kitabu kiteule kama hapa. Lakini kwa sababu ya mageuzi ya mfumo wa kufunza lugha ya Kiswahili, swali katika shairi linatolewa katika kitabu chochote. Na si lazima kitoke katika kitabu. Mtu yoyote yule ambaye ni manju, malenga, hawa wote ni waandishi ama watunzi wa mashairi, wanaweza kupewa hilo jukumu la kuandika shairi, halafu we mwanafunzi unakumbana nalo. Katika fasihi simulizi upande mwingine, kama nilivyokuambia, ni kwamba hapa iko katika mtaala na huwa inazungumziwa kwa kina katika hivi vitabu vya kiada, yaani textbooks zile ambazo mnatumia. Kwa mfano chemichemi ya Kiswahili, kingine ni Kiswahili fasaha. Hapo utapata kuna somo pale ambalo limetengwa mahususan kuzungumzia fasihi simulizi. Ijapokuwa kuna waandishi wakongwe ambao wamebobea katika fani ya fasihi. Mtu kama Profesa Wamitila ameandika kitabu kinaitwa Kichocheo cha Fasihi, ambacho kinazungumzia masuala ya fasihi simulizi peke yake. Kwa hivyo hizi ndio sehemu ambazo zinapatikana katika fasihi. Huu ndio mdokezo ambao ningependa kukujulisha kabla sijaingia kwa kina kuzungumza kitabu hiki cha fasihi ama cha hadithi fupi fupi. Nafikiria hadi hapo wanafunzi tuko pamoja. Baada ya kuzungumza kukupatia mdokezo kuhusu fasihi simulizi, wacha mwanafunzi niweze kukueleza, je, fasihi ni nini? Fasihi ni nini? Fasihi ni sanaa ya lugha ambayo mwandishi anaikusanya na kuingiza katika kitabu. Ingawaje wachache ama watu wengi wanafikiria kwamba fasihi ama usanii ama sanaa ni yule mtu tu anatunga wimbo na kuimba pale. La hasha. Hata yule ambaye anaonyesha sarakasi, ile ni sanaa. Kwa hivyo uandishi wa fasihi pia vile vile ni sanaa ambayo inakusanywa na kuwekwa katika maandishi. Hata katika shairi pia hii ni fasihi ama ni sanaa ya utunzi wa ushairi, ambapo maudhui ya hapa huwa mafupi sana, yako katika hali ya vifungu ambavyo tunaviita ubeti. Kwa hivyo mtu atakapokuuliza fasihi ni nini, mwambie ni sanaa katika fani ya lugha. Kwa hivyo fasihi ni sanaa katika fani ya lugha. Bila shaka nimekutoa maruweruwe ama ule usingizi ulikuwa uko nao kuhusu maelezo ya fasihi. Bila shaka tuko pamoja, wanafunzi na wakereketwa wa lugha ya Kiswahili. Sasa basi, baada ya kukueleza maana ya fasihi, ningependa tuzungumze kimoja ya kile kitabu kiteule ambacho kiko katika upande wa fasihi andishi. Na kitabu chenyewe si kingine ila ni Tumbo Lisiloshiba. Tumbo Lisiloshiba. Hii ni anwani ambayo imepewa katika hiki kitabu, ingawaje iko na mkusanyiko wa hadithi nyingine. Maanake ndio maana ikaitwa Tumbo Lisiloshiba na hadithi nyingine. Kwanza kabisa, kabla kuingia kwa undani, ningependa kukueleza kwa nini tumbo lisiloshiba. Nani hashibi? Kuna tumbo ambalo halishibi mwanafunzi. Bila shaka kama ingelikuwako tumbo lisiloshiba, ungekuwa alfajiri na mapema ukiamka tu wewe unaendelea kula mpaka mchana mzima, mpaka usiku mzima. Kwa hivyo hapa mwandishi alikuwako na lengo na madhumuni ya kuandika tumbo lisiloshiba. Kwa ufupi, katika lugha ya fasihi tunaweza tukasema hiki ni kinaya. Huu ni mzaha. Na pengine mwandishi alikuwako amelenga watu fulani ambao wako na hii tabia. Kwa hivyo tutaangalia kwa kina tumbo lisiloshiba, mwandishi wa hilo tumbo lisiloshiba, na ni lengo gani alikuwako yuko nalo mpaka akaandika hii hadithi fupi, na badala ya kuitafutia anwani nyingine sema tumbo lisiloshiba. Lakini kabla sijaenda hapo, wacha nikueleze maana ya tumbo. Tumbo sio mimba. Tumbo si tumbo kubwa. Ile tumbo kubwa tunaliita kiriba. Kwa hivyo hata mimi ambaye niko hapa, mimi sina tumbo, lakini tumbo kubwa, lakini bado niko na tumbo. Kwa hivyo tumbo ni sehemu ya mwili ambayo hubeba kila chakula ambacho kinapitishwa kupitia mdomoni. Na unapokula kile chakula, bila shaka kitendo cha mwisho ni kushiba. Na unaposhiba unaondokea na tumbo litaridhika. Lakini sasa sijui kwa nini mwandishi ametuelekeza tumbo lisiloshiba. Lakini hata hivyo usiwe na shaka, nitakueleza ni kwa nini mwandishi alisema hivyo. Katika fasihi andishi, nafikiria wanafunzi na wakereketo wako na hicho kitabu Tumbo Lisiloshiba. Unapoangalia pale kwenye daraja, unakutana na ile anwani kubwa kabisa na hadithi nyingine. Unapoangalia pale chini, kuna bamu kubwa pale, amefinyanga chapati, unafikiria anataka kuziingiza zote, na tumbo kubwa na kijishati kimebana kwenye mbavu kule. Je, nikikuuliza hili ni tumbo linaloshiba kweli? Hili ni tumbo ambalo halishibi, na si ugonjwa, ni tabia. Tunapoangalia kuna vyakula vingi sana pale huyu bwana ameandaliwa. Kwa hivyo bila shaka ni tofauti ya mimi na wewe. Ungekuwa unataka chakula, pengine leo unasema unataka chapati, unatengenezewa chapati, unakula pale kwa mchuzi, borohoa ama kitu chochote kile. Leo tunataka wali unaandaliwa kwa kuku, lakini huyu bwana ameletewa vitu vyote kwa mkupuo. Kwa hivyo bila shaka kuna kitu kinamchochea, ana tamaa, ana uchu, kila mara anataka kuona chochote kile anachokikutana nacho anaingiza kwenye tumbo. Kwa hivyo tutakapoingia kwa undani tu, tutaona ni kwa nini ni tumbo lisiloshiba. Nafikiria mpaka hapo wanafunzi tumeelewana katika jalada ambalo linavyojitokeza katika tumbo lisiloshiba. Sijui kama tuko pamoja mpaka hapo. Kwa hivyo tumbo lisiloshiba ndio mojawapo ya hadithi ambazo tutazijadili hapa. Kama nilivyotangulia kukuambia kwamba huwa hadithi fupi, kila mwandishi amepewa mazingira ambayo atayazungumzia. Kwa hivyo hadi hapo, wacha tuangalie maudhui gani katika kila hadithi ambayo yanajitokeza katika tumbo lisiloshiba. Ni sawa wanafunzi? Mkusanyiko huu unaangazia maudhui mbalimbali kama vile siasa, dini, ulemavu, masuala ya kijinsia, elimu, ukware, ulaghai, uchumi, mazingira,
umaskini, uongozi, ukabila, mapenzi, ndoa, ushirikina, miongoni mwa mengine. Kwa hivyo haya yote ambayo nimezungumza hapa, unaposoma hiki kitabu wewe mwanafunzi, ujue kwamba unaposoma hadithi fulani uweze kujua kwamba imeongozwa na yale ambayo nimekuelezea. Nafikiria tuko pamoja hadi hapo. Maswala yaliyoshughulikiwa katika mkusanyiko huu yataibua hisia ya msomaji, msomi, mtafiti na wanafunzi katika maisha yao. Kwa hivyo hiki kitabu sio tu kwamba kimeandikwa kwa madhumuni ya wewe mwanafunzi upite mtihani alafu uache. La hasha. Kuna wale wakereketwa wa lugha ya Kiswahili ambao pia wanasoma hiki kitabu. Kuna wale wana uchumi, wana biashara, wamepewa pia nafasi yao, wanaangaziwa pengine katika tumbo lisiloshiba. Ni kwa nini masuala ya kiuchumi ya taifa fulani linaenda chini? Haya yote yamezungumziwa hapa. Kama ni masuala ya dini pia vile vile unaelekezwa. Manake kuna dini nyingine ndizo sivyo. Sitakwambia kama ni dini gani, lakini nimekuelezea kwamba masuala ya dini itazungumziwa hapa. Katika mapenzi, haswa nyinyi vijana ambao ndio sasa mnaanza kuingiza joto katika mwili wenu, utakuta ya kwamba mapenzi unaelekezwa kuhusu mapenzi. Na hapa labda kuna mwandishi hapa ambaye amezungumzia mapenzi na elimu. Hivi vitu viwili vitapatana? Kweli, kusema kweli havitapatana. Kwa hivyo pengine mwandishi anakuelekeza, kama umeenda kwa masuala ya kusoma, wewe soma. Mapenzi hayaishi bwana. Haya ni kama bahari. Bahari hakuna siku utaambiwa limekauka maji. Kwa hivyo hayo masuala yote yatazungumziwa hapa. Ni vyema nikutambulishe wale wahariri, ama kwanza kabisa wapigaji chapa wa hiki kitabu. Matibaa ambayo ni publishers. Matibaa waliopewa fursa kuandika kitabu ni watu wa Longhorn. Na halafu kilisafiriwa ama kilifanyiwa ufasiri na magwiji wa lugha, mtu kama Alifa Chokocho na Dumu Kayanda. Hawa ndio walichukua zile hadithi zote na kuzipitia na kuona kwamba hizi hadithi zinafaa. Hadi hapo wanafunzi, nafikiria tuko pamoja. Kwa hivyo moja kwa moja bila kupoteza wakati, wacha nikutajie baadhi tu ya wale waandishi ambao wameandika hizi hadithi ambazo zinapatikana wapi? Katika tumbo lisiloshiba. Kwanza kabisa kuna Said Ahmed Muhammad. Huyu ni mwandishi wa vitabu wa jadi sana. Kuna kitabu kama Utengano, Amezidi na kadhalika. Pia vile vile kuna hadithi inaitwa Mapenzi ya Kifaurongo ambacho imeandikwa Keni na Wasike. Keni Wasike ndio ameandika Mapenzi Kifaurongo. Pia vile vile kuna Shogake Dada na Ana Ndevu, Alifa Chokocho. Kingine ni Shibe Inatumaliza, Salim Omar Ahmed. Mamake Bakari, Mohamed Halifa Gasar. Masharti ya Kisasa, Alifa Chokocho. Ndoto ya Mashaka, Ali Abdullah Ali. Kidege, Robert Odwor. Kizikeni na Nizikeni papa hapa, Keni Walibora, ambaye huyu hakuna nafikiria asiyemjua. Huyu ni bingwa wa lugha, Profesa Keni Walibora. Tulipokutana tena, Alifa Chokocho. Mwalimu Mustafa Dumu Kayanda. Halafu kuna Mtihani wa Maisha ambacho kimeandikwa na Eunice Kimaliro. Halafu na hadithi ya mwisho Mkubwa ambacho kimeandikwa na Ali Mwalimu Rashid. Halafu mwisho kabisa wale ambao hawajui msamiati, maskini wa usamiati. Umaskini si wa pesa tu, hata lugha pia unaweza kuwa nayo umaskini. Kwa hivyo huko mwisho kabisa utapata sherehe. Katika kila hadithi yale maneno ambayo yatakupa utata, bila shaka utakuwa umefafanuliwa na wamerahisisha mambo kabisa hapa wanafunzi. Kila ambacho mimi naona hawakufanya usawa ni kumpatia mwandishi mwanamke mmoja tu nafasi ya kuandika hii hadithi. Kwa hivyo hapo tusizingatie sana, lakini bila shaka watakuja. Kwa hivyo kama kuna mwanafunzi mwanamke, kama kuna mkereketo wa lugha msichana, bila shaka ni wakati wako sasa na wewe uchangie hapa. Nafikiria hizo ndizo hadithi ambazo zinapatikana hapa, hadithi 13 ambazo wewe mwanafunzi unatakikana uwe unazisoma na kuzinakili katika kichwa chako. Nafikiria hadi hapo wanafunzi tuko pamoja. Mimi nimekufungulia tu jamvi la namna ya kujua hadithi ngapi na gani ziko katika hiki kitabu. Lakini bado kuna swali ambalo ningetaka wewe mwanafunzi nikueleze. Swali lenyewe, je, utazisoma vipi hadithi hizi? Kweli nimekuambia hadithi ziko pale. Hadithi hizi utazisoma vipi? Jambo la kwanza ningependa kukutahadharisha wewe mwanafunzi. Wanafunzi wengi ni wazembe wanapopewa kitabu kama hiki, mahususan ambacho kimeandikwa katika lugha ya Kiswahili kama tumbo lisiloshiba. Badala ya kusoma kile kitabu, kusoma hadithi moja baada ya nyingine na kuielewa, yeye anakimbilia hiki kitabu mnakiita mwongozo. Hii kitabu mwongozo inakakana kwamba mwanafunzi umeambiwa wewe maswali yatatoka hapa. Huyu ujue ni mwanabiashara. Kama angekuwa mwandishi angeandika kitabu chake, lakini yeye alitegemea wale waandishi wako hapa watoe kitabu halafu yaandike mwongozo wa kuandika kwa njia fupi ambapo wewe sasa utarahisisha pale. Kwa hivyo unaponunua mwongozo ujue hutakuwa unasoma kitabu cha tumbo lisiloshiba. Na unapokutana na swali unaanza kuhesabu misumari kwenye dari. Maswali huyajui, kisa na maana hujasoma hiki kitabu. Kwa hivyo jambo la kwanza ningependa wewe mwanafunzi ambaye utakuja katika hili darasa wakati mwingine, uhakikishe umesoma hiki kitabu. Soma hadithi, uielewe. Unaposoma hadithi na kuelewa, pale chini mwandishi amekuwa na hisani na wewe. Amekuuliza maswali 2 matatu. Kuna maswali ya dondoo, yale ambayo nilikwambia kwamba ananakili kifungu cha maneno ambacho kimetoka pale na kukuuliza kama swali. Kwa hivyo kama utakutana na swali kama hilo, ni nafasi yako wewe, rudi katika kile kitabu uone haya maneno ameyatoa wapi. Na unapojua ameyatoa wapi, ujue hapo sasa ndio umesoma kile kitabu. Kwa hivyo usikimbilie mwongozo, soma hadithi uielewe sawa sawa. Je, utakisoma vipi hiki kitabu? Kwa sababu ni hadithi fupi, utachukua muda mfupi sana kusoma hizi hadithi kuliko kitabu cha riwaya, ambapo hapa itabidi unaenda ukipumzika. Lakini hapa kwa mfano unachukua hadithi ya kwanza, tumbo lisiloshiba, haiwezi kukuchukua muda mrefu. Wewe soma kile kitabu, kifahamu, ama soma ile hadithi, ielewe, wachana nayo. Enda kwa yale maswali. Ukiona umeshindwa kujibu yale maswali, jua kile kitabu hujakielewa mwanafunzi. Kwa hivyo mimi ningependa tu kukushawishi ama kukupatia radhi kwamba hizi hadithi zisome na unazinakili. Wakati utakapoingia kwenye miongozo, pia ujue ni mwongozo gani ambao unautafuta. Mwongozo si mwongozo tu, wengine si uongozi. Anakuelekeza kwenye shimo ambalo hutaweza kujitoa. Kwa hivyo hadi hapo ndio tutasema kwamba nimekujulisha jinsi ya kusoma hiki kitabu. Somo ambalo litafuata, tutakuwa tunazungumzia hadithi moja hadi nyingine. Na katika zile hadithi tutapata pale maudhui, lengo la mwandishi, ni kwa nini aliandika hiyo hadithi. Kama vile nilivyokuambia kwamba kuna masuala ya kisiasa, kuna masuala ya kidini, kuna masuala ya kijinsia, kuna masuala ya ndoa, masuala ya mapenzi, masuala ya elimu. Hayo yote itategemea ile hadithi ambayo tutaisoma na kuichambua, na nitachambua na wewe ili niweze kukurahisishia kazi. Kila ambacho ningependa ufanye mwanafunzi, wakati ninakufunza, kuwa na kitabu chako kidogo, sajara ama diary. Sajara, kuwa na sajara yako, nakili yale maneno ambayo nitakuwa ama vile pengine nitakuwa nazungumzia. Hadi hapo tumekamilisha sehemu yetu ya mdokezo, fasihi ni nini, na jinsi ya kusoma hizi hadithi fupi. Je, wanafunzi mmefurahia? Hadi hapo wanafunzi, tumefika kikomo katika somo letu la kwanza. Chembelecho wahenga wanasema kwamba dau unapolipiga makasia kulitoa kwenye ufuo kulipeleka uvuvini, bila shaka lazima ulirudishe pale. Kwa hivyo mimi dau langu la mdokezo na ufafanuzi wa fasihi nimelirudisha kwenye ukingo. Tukutane tena katika somo lingine tutakapolipanda lile dau, tuende katika maswala ya uchambuzi wa kina ya hiki kitabu Tumbo Lisilo Shiba. Msisahau jina langu ni Mwalimu Konzi Nzaka yule. Wengine wanapenda kuniambia mwalimu aliyemeza kamusi na kukuachia kurasa usome. Asante.
Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Hello learners, welcome again to Manifested e-learning platform. I'm Teacher Purity and welcome to this online lesson, and we are still learning English for grade 2. The topic is still language structure, and under language structure we are going to talk about the use of the verb wa. So this is the same thing we discussed in our previous lesson. We still learn the use of the verb wa. So we are still going to learn it again because maybe you have forgotten or there are people who did not understand. So welcome to the lesson and hope you are going to enjoy. So we are learning English. So under language structure, we had started on the use of the verb wa. The use of the verb wa. Now, if you can remember, during our previous lesson, we learned the use of the verb wa, and we said that wa is used in the past tense to represent when you are talking about something that is done by another person or other people. So, wa is used to represent something done by another person, who is one, or other people. So we use wa, we use the verb wa to, we use the verb wa when talking about something, when referring to something. When referring to something done by another person or other people. So we use the verb wa when referring to something done by another person or other people. Now let's understand what we are saying by talking about another person. When we are talking about another person, we use the pronoun you. You represents another person. You are not the one, but you are talking about something that another person has done. Then other people. Now other people can be represented by they. They were going to the school. They represents other people who are more than one. We can still use the verb wa with the pronoun we. We is used in plural, and when you use we, it means you are among those people who have participated in a certain activity or who have done a certain task. So the verb wa is used when referring to something done by another person or other people. Another person is represented by you. So let's see how we can use the verb were in examples. So examples can have the first one. You are sweeping the house. Example 1, you are sweeping the house. Now you is representing another person. You are talking about another person who was sweeping the house. Another example can have you are playing in the rain. You are playing in the rain. So you are talking about another person who was playing in the rain, and it is something that already happened in the past. Now we have said that the verb were is used when referring to something done by another person, which is represented by you or other people. Under other people, I've said you can use they or we. We is when you are among those people. Now let's see how we can use the verb were with the pronoun we. So you can have an example. We were sitting under the shade. Under the tree, not under the shade. Under the tree. We were sitting under the tree. This means that you are among those people who were sitting under that tree. We can still have another one. We were fetching water. We were fetching water. You are among those people who went to the river to fetch water. And lastly, we have they. They now, you are talking about other people. You are not among those people. So you can have a sentence like, they were singing a song. They were singing a song. You are telling us about other people who were singing a song. Can also have another one. They were planting the crops. They were planting the crops. You are telling us about other people who are planting the crops. Now, this is what we learned during our previous lesson, the use of the verb were, where it is used when referring to something done by another person or other people. And the examples, number 1, you were sweeping the house. You, which is used to refer to another person. Example 2, you were playing in the rain. Example 3, we were sitting under the tree. Now, under we were sitting under the tree, you are talking about people and you are among those people doing the activity. Number 4, we were fetching water. You are among those people who went to fetch water. And number 5, they were singing a song. They were singing a song. They is used when talking about other people who have done something. So these particular people here were singing a song. You are telling us what they did in the past. And lastly, they were planting the crops. You are talking about people who are planting the crops. They already planted them. So you are now telling us what they did. So this is what we discussed during our previous lesson. And after the lesson, I gave you assignment. I want us to quickly go through the assignment. We shall go through the assignment on the board. So as we go through the assignment, check your answers with what you shall have on the blackboard. If you are having the wrong answer, please don't correct during the lesson. You shall do correction after the lesson. So let's go through the work. So we are still under language structure. And talking about the use of the verb were. The use of the verb were. So let's go through the work that I gave you. Now, the instruction were fill in the gaps using the verb were. Fill in the gaps using the verb were. So the instructions are clearly telling us to use the verb were to fill in the blank spaces, or rather the dashes. So number one was we dash playing outside. We dash playing outside. We dash playing outside. Now, from the instructions, you have been instructed to fill in the gaps using the verb were. So you'll come and fill in the gap with the verb were. After filling in the answer, you read the whole sentence with the answer. So your sentence should read, we were playing outside. We were playing outside. Question 2 was, you dash crying loudly. You dash crying loudly. So fill the gap with the verb were. Then you read the whole sentence again with the answer. So your sentence should read, you were crying loudly. You were crying loudly. That particular person was crying out loudly. Question 3 was, you dash washing the classroom. You dash washing the classroom. So fill the blank space with the verb were and read the whole sentence. So you were washing the classroom. Your sentence should read, you were washing the classroom. Question 4 you dash taking your lunch. You dash taking your lunch. So you fill the blank space with the word. Then you read the whole sentence. You are taking your lunch. And the last one was they dash playing in the rain. Number 5. They dash playing in the rain. They dash playing in the rain. So fill the blank space again with the verb were. After that, you read the whole sentence with the answer so that your sentence should read, they were playing in the rain. They were playing in the rain. So this is how you are supposed to go through your assignment that I gave you during the previous lesson. Check your work. Confirm if your answers are the same as what I have on the board. And if you do not have the correct answers, please do corrections before you continue with the work that I will give. But if you have scored everything, just continue with what I will give. So for the ones that have corrections, please do corrections. And it shows that you have tried. It is not bad to wrong. It is very fine because you are learning. The ones who have scored everything, that is good work. So just finish the corrections if you have them and copy the questions. If you do not have the corrections, kindly copy the assignments that I am going to give. So let's go through the work that I've given you. The instruction says fill in the gaps with the verb were. So now you are going to fill in the gaps. The gaps are the dashes using the verb were. Question 1, Mwangi and Otieno dash playing in the bush. Question 2, they dash washing the dishes. Number 3, Mary and Nafula dash drawing. Mary and Nafula dash drawing. Question 4, you dash reading a storybook. And lastly, father and mother dash going to the market. So copy these questions and you do them. The ones who have corrections, make sure that you finish the corrections first before you do the work that is on the board. So finish your work, and after answering your work, make sure that you read through your work, you go through the questions. You can correct small mistakes that you might have committed. So happy to have you for today's lesson. Hope to see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.
Thank you for choosing to study with us. For more information, you can call us on 0724 173845.
Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Welcome to our today's history and government lesson. Your teacher, Conan Gakure. It's my pleasure to have you in today's lesson. We are going to introduce a new topic, that is the establishment of colonial rule in Kenya. That is the next topic of Form 3 that we are going to be discussing. In this unit, we are going to dwell more into the Kenyan, the establishment of colonial rule in Kenya. In the previous topic that you have studied, we were learning about the European invasion and the process of colonization of Africa. We discussed how the European powers scrambled, were fighting, were competing against each other, right? That is the scramble, the sudden rush. So the European powers rushed into getting colonies or territories in the African continent. That is what we defined as the scramble for Africa. And then after the scramble, they sat down during the Berlin Conference, if you can remember, that was held in which year? I'll give you that. You should be able to know the year in which the Berlin Conference was held, that was led by Otto von Bismarck, the Chancellor of the German Republic then. So they came down and sat and decided to subdivide, partition, share in an organized manner. That is partition. So they partitioned Africa amongst themselves. That is the partitioning of Africa. So Africa was now subdivided as a continent. It was subdivided. Each European power took part of the continent for themselves. The European powers that were struggling or that shared the African continent, that they refer to as the African cake, right? Can you remember which are these powers? Can you mention them? The powers that subdivided or took territories in Africa, the European powers. Which are they? British, very good. We have the French, very good. We have which other? We have the Italians, we have the Germans, we have the Belgians, right? These are some of the powers. We had Portugal, some of the European powers that came to get colonies. Are you able to remember the reasons that we gave? Why were they so much interested in getting these colonies and getting each and every person getting a portion of the African continent? There were so many reasons that we gave. We divided them into social, into economic, political, human, and then the strategic reasons for them scrambling and partitioning Africa. And we are not going to dwell in that because we have already tackled that. So based on that, now we come down into and look at now how the Kenyan territory was colonized. And the first thing to mention, it was colonized by the British. The British took control of the Kenyan colony. But before that, I would want to give you a background of how they ended up coming to take position of Africa. So, of Kenya, sorry. Kenya is part of the East Africa. Kenya is part of East Africa. In East Africa, we have other nations. At that time, we have Tanzania, we have Uganda, we have Ethiopia, right? The eastern part of Africa. So there were different powers that were interested in getting the East African territory. Some of these countries are Germans. Germany was one of them. We had Britain. We had Italy. Right? We had Italy that were competing to get the East African territory. We also had the Portuguese, who had come earlier than these powers. Remember in your Form 1 work, the contacts between East Africa and the outside world. So East Africa had been exposed to the outside world through trade. That was the main thing that exposed the East African coast to this power. So by the trade, it attracted these powers to come and get colonies in East Africa. Because of the trade, people were able to know that East Africa is rich, and now these powers came and competed to get a portion of the East African part of the African continent. So these are the countries that were fighting. So they had, after the Berlin Conference, they had to divide the East African continent amongst themselves. They made a protectorate, and I'm sure you discussed that. You know what a protectorate is: a sphere of influence where power has been put in place. So Britain took control of Kenya, which is the land where we are living in. The boundaries of Kenya, we were colonized by Britain. So you ask yourself, what are the factors or what are the reasons why the British were so much interested in taking Kenya as their colony in East Africa? Because remember, they were competing with all these other nations. So there must be a significant reason or reasons why these powers are fighting or struggling to get each other, or struggling against each other to get part of the colony of Africa. So that is what we are going to be discussing. Let us start with that at that point so that we are able to go forward. So the factors, you can also refer to that as reasons for factors for colonization. Factors for colonization of colonization stroke occupation. Stroke occupation of Kenya. Remember, we are saying, and I've mentioned that it was occupied by Britain. So what are these factors that encouraged or made it necessary for the British to come and occupy Kenya? The first one was the source of the Nile. The source of the Nile. Remember, the Nile starts in Uganda, right? And we said it was very essential because Britain had occupied Egypt. So it was necessary for them to secure where the Nile starts because Egypt is a desert. They do not have their own sources of water. They heavily relied on the Nile as a source of water. It provided, the Nile provided water. It also provided silt. Silt that could be deposited on the shores of the Nile towards as it goes to drain into the Mediterranean Sea. So it carries along the top soil from the highlands, from the East African highlands, the Ethiopian highlands. So it was very essential for the British to occupy Kenya and Uganda being one, at that time the British protectorate, so that they are able to protect the source of River Nile. Why? Because they had occupied Egypt, and as we discussed in our previous topic, Egypt was very strategic or was very important to them because of the Suez Canal. So it was necessary for the British to come and occupy Kenya so that they could safeguard those interests, the source of River Nile. That is the first reason why they were very interested in occupying Kenya. Number two, they had strategic, Kenya had strategic interests or the strategic position of Kenya on the coast, on the East African coast. So British had interest in India, right? They had interest in India. They had colonized India, and it was very rich for them. It was very essential. So Kenya was a strategic stopover position. It was a calling place for the British as they moved towards India. So they had to colonize Kenya so that they can safeguard their interest in India. They could easily move from Kenya to India in case there was need. So Kenya was of strategic importance to them. Remember, Kenya had very good natural harbors. So the British would come, dock at the coast, and take time as they move towards the Indian place. And then number 3, they were searching for raw materials. They were searching for raw materials. Remember, it was during the time of industrialization. There were a lot of industries that had developed in Britain. Britain had become a superior power. Actually, it was the first country to power to industrialize. Remember in your topic in development of industry, Britain was the first to industrialize. So it had a lot of industries that required a lot of raw materials. Examples is what we have: cotton, there is tea, right? They could come and get these plantations and get these minerals and then export them or take them to Britain for the industries to produce. And then after they had processed the raw materials that have come from Kenya, they had also to look for market. So Kenya also provided a ready market. That was another reason or factor for the colonization or occupation of Kenya. So the British came because Kenyans provided a ready market for the goods. Kenyans, we were producing these raw materials, but we did not have our own industries to produce the clothing, to produce the shoes. So the British occupied Kenya in the interest that they could be able to get market for their products in exchange of the raw materials that they were producing, and also Kenyans were also willing to make payments for those goods. Let us look also at the other reasons why the British had to occupy Kenya. Number 5. They wanted to protect missionaries. So during the 19th century, there were Christian missionaries who came to evangelize. They came to spread the gospel, right? They came to spread the gospel. So these missionaries requested their mother countries or their home governments for protection. So they required to be protected. So they came and asked the home governments to provide them with support or to provide them with protection. Apart from the missionaries, there were also other people who had come to invest in Kenya. So they also required protection. Apart from protection, number 6, they also wanted to abolish slave trade. So the British came with the interest of abolishing slave trade that was happening at the coast, led by the Portuguese initially, and then we also had the Arabs. Remember, Said had
established a plantation at the coast, which required a lot of manpower. So there was development of slave trade. So the British came in the interest of abolishing slave trade and in its part establish legitimate trade. So they wanted to promote legitimate trade. That is, the market, they wanted to find a place where they could sell their own, they could sell their own products. So apart from that also, number 7, they had another reason for coming to the east or to Kenya. They wanted to invest the surplus capital. So from the industries that they had developed in their homes, they had a lot of capital. They got a lot of profits from the industries. So these profits, they needed to invest it somewhere else, because now they have industries that are providing a lot of resources to them. So there existed a class of wealthy merchants, right? There are wealthy merchants or traders, wealthy merchants who wanted to advance or get or invest the monies they had gotten in new lands. So they had to come and occupy the Kenyan territory for them to continue enjoying the profits. And then apart from that, there was need or there was prestige. It was prestigious for them to acquire the Kenyan colony. It added to their interest. It added to their self-esteem that they have a new colony. And then the second last reason why they came to the or occupy, or they wanted to colonize the African or the Kenyan territory, was to settle the surplus population. To settle the surplus population with production of more food from the industries. The population in Britain had increased. So they needed a place where they could settle the British community. And Kenya was a perfect place. We have a very good climate. That is the first thing. And we have very fertile land. So these Europeans had the opinion that they could come and settle in the Kenyan highlands. That is why they went to the highlands. The highlands at the coast. We had very nice beaches where they could relax themselves. They could swim. Right? In Nairobi, we had very fresh water that they could be able to access every now and then. And then lastly, the independence. The independence of the USA. The independence of the USA. USA was a colony of Britain. So when USA became independent, the British turned to Africa, and specifically Kenya, based on the other points that I've put forward. So they wanted to get other colonies to compensate for the loss they had gotten after the independence of the USA. So these are some of the factors that necessitated or encouraged the British to come and make an occupation of Africa. So I'm sure you are able to discuss them in detail, and as we have done, and you are able to group them into economic, social, and political reasons. And I'm sure when you are asked to mention political reasons, you are able. For example, when you are told to mention even the economic reasons, you are well able, because you just talk of ready market, you'll talk of raw materials, right? You'll talk of the investment of capital, right? So those are economic. Social, you talk of missionaries and traders. You talk of when you talk of social, there is missionaries, right? And also abolishment of slave trade. That is humanitarian aspect. Political, you talk of prestige, right? You talk of the independence of the USA, right? You talk of the strategic interests of Kenya. Those are part of the politics or dealing with ruling, right? So those are the factors. So as we have introduced our lesson, our topic, so we shall in the coming lessons look at what or how did they occupy the Kenyan territory. How did the Kenyan people react towards the coming of the British, and then how did they rule the Kenyan territory? So those are the issues we are going to be discussing in our coming lessons. So allow me now to give you, as we end our first lesson, allow me to give you a revision question. A revision question for you. Actually, let me give you two questions, revision questions. Number one, identify the European powers competing for East Africa. And then number two, discuss the factors that encourage the British occupation of Kenya. Number one, identify the European powers that competed for East Africa. And then number two, discuss the factors that encourage the British occupation of Kenya. So those are the questions that I want you to attempt. And with that, we have come to the end of our history and government lesson for today. Thank you for your participation and for watching. Until the next time, bye-bye.
Good morning, learner. Welcome to Manifested Online Classes, where we are going to continue our classes on our topic geometry from the People's Book, Book 8, where I gave a question and you are supposed to work. So I'm going to work out that question as it was given. If you look on the board, we have that question and we'll go through it before we solve the question. It was question number 3, and the question goes, a carpenter constructed a door sketch as shown in the sketch A, B, C, D, E, F. Your father told blank BE divided the door into 2 equal parts. And you also told length FD is 2.4 meters and length CD is 0.9 meters. So the first question A asks you,
what is the length of AE? What is the length of AE? The second question B asks you, what is the total length of planks required, or the length of all these planks required to construct the frame? And the last question, C, timber of width 15 centimeters and 2.4 meters was nailed on that frame, was nailed above the frame to complete the door. So you asked how many such pieces of timber were required to cover the structure. So then what was the total length? What was the total length? So we shall go to the first question A. Where you are told length AE. E. Before we look at length AE, before we work out that, we shall look at the diagram again. And from the previous questions we did, we are getting some extracts from the diagram, mostly of a triangle that would help us to get the length of AE. So if I take out the diagram, to get AE, I'll be forced to extract triangle AFE. So I'll extract that triangle, this triangle in question. I'll extract triangle. I'll extract triangle AFE. I think if you look on the diagram, you can easily get it. So it is AFE. So I'll extract it, that triangle. So I have my A here, I have my F here, and I have my E. Looking at it well, because the door is square, it is a right-angled triangle with a right angle at F. And if you look at the question, you are told plank BE divided the door into two equal parts. So that plank would divide that length FD into two equal parts. So it will mean FE will be 1.2 meters and this one will be 1.2 meters. So from that extract, FE will be 1.2 meters and AF, which will be equal also to CD, will be 0.9 meters. So I've extracted my right-angled triangle. And in the previous questions we did, we talked about the Pythagoras theorem. So the length I have to get is AE. Its length AE. And from that extract of a right angle triangle, AE is like the hypotenuse. It's like the hypotenuse. So from our previous working, if this is a right angle triangle, it will go without saying that AE from the Pythagoras theorem, AE squared will be equal to FE squared plus AF squared from what? From the Pythagoras theory. From the Pythagoras theory. So from this one, after working that, it will come that length AE, isn't it? You'll have to get the square root. AE will then be equal to the square root of FE squared plus AF squared. So it is not the first time I'm talking about the Pythagoras theorem. We talked of it in the last question, where the longer side, which is the hypotenuse, the square of the longer side is equal to the sum of the squares of the shorter side. So we go back there. This will be equal to the square root. We already know the length of FE from my extract, which is 1.2 squared plus 0.9 squared. That takes us to other attributes of calculation. Should have multiplying decimal numbers. So if I have a decimal number with one decimal point like that, when I multiply, I'm likely to get 2 decimal places. So working out like 12, 1.2 times 1.2. I can work out the normal way, but I know I'll have 2 decimal places. So 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1, 2. 1 times 1, 1. So I'll have 4, 4, 1. So I'll have 2 decimal places. Well, this is 1 plus another one, 2. So the decimal place will be there. When I come to 0.9 times 0.9, the same way, 9 times 9 will give me 81. But the 2 decimal places will be reflected in that answer. So that will be 0.81. So the first answer here is 1.44. 1.44 plus 0.81. If you work out that addition, it will come up to 2.25. So we come out to another attribute there where you have to get the square root of 2.25. When you get a square root, if the number has 2 decimal places, the answer will have 1 decimal place. So there are many ways in which you are told in the earlier classes how to get that. You can factorize to get that. You can factorize to get that. So you can come and have 225. You factorize. 5 goes there. 445. 5 goes there. 9. And this is 3. Isn't it? So actually, if you get, this will work out to 5 squared times 3 squared. If I get the square root of that, it will work out to 5 times 3, which will give me 15. It will give me 15. But I said if you have that, the answer will have 1 decimal point. If it had 4 decimal places, the answer will have 2 decimal places. So that will give what? 1.5. So that works to 1.5 meters. I've already got the length of AE. I've already got the length of AE. So there are steps there which should be very careful about when you are working the square root. If in that number you had 2, the answer has 1.
Sure, not that. We go to the second question. B, where you are told, what is the total length of planks required to construct the frame? So I know you know planks are these ones, A, F, F, E, E, D. Those are the planks that join up to create the frame of that door. So we shall go to B. B, length of planks will be equal to AF plus, you can shorten that. Instead of me writing FEED, I just write FD plus FD because I have the length, then plus DC. Then instead of writing CBBA, because FD is equal to AB, I can write CA plus, I've gone round, but I should write the intermediate pieces. But what you should notice, AE is also equal to BD, because we are told plank BE divided the door into two equal parts. So it is a mirror. It is a reflection. If you look yourself in a mirror, what do you see? You see yourself the same size. So AE will be equal to BD because line B is just a reflection, cuts the door into two equal parts. So I'll join up the intermediate planks as AE. Another intermediate plank is BE, which divided the door into two parts, and the last one is BD. Lucky enough, this length I have them because CD is equal to AF. So I'll have AF will be 0.9 meters plus FD 2.4 meters plus DC 0.9 meters plus CA 2.4 meters. Then I come to the intermediate planks, which I got there, 1.5 as AE. And then I come, BE is the same as CD, which is 0.9 meters. And lastly, I have BD, which is equal to AE, which is 1.5 meters. The units, So on adding up, adding of decimal places, we have 0.9 appearing how many times? We have, you can shorten these. This can be equal to 0.9 is appearing 1, 2, because we have 0.9. Let's check. The second last was BE. Yeah, 0.9 is appearing 3 times. So you can say it is the same as 0.9 times 3 plus 2.4 is appearing how many times? 2.4, we look, 1, 2. So it can be the same as saying 2.4, include your meters, times 2. Our last length is 1.5. It is appearing how many times? Twice. So it will be plus 1.5 meters times 2. Look at your workings. We still go to what we are doing, decimal places. If we have one decimal place here, it should be reflected in your answer. This one should be reflected in your answer, and this one should be reflected. So we shall come to, you say 9 times 3 is 27, but we should have that decimal place reflected. We come to 2.4 times 2, 24 times 2, 48, but it will be 4.8 meters because of that one decimal place. And lastly, you can say 15 times 2, but you should have, if we have 30, we have that 1 decimal place, which will be 3.0, which is the same as 3. So you add up 2.7 plus 4.8 plus 3.0. So you can come alongside there for some who will need 2.7 meters plus 4.8 meters, and lastly 3 meters. Yes, so I'll retain my meters. Then I start adding. You check how I add. You should be very careful as you carry on. So 7 plus 8 is 15. Retain the decimal place and carry 1. So the one I carried plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. And 7 plus 3 is 10. So the total length of planks required is 10.5 meters. The total length of planks required is 10.5 meters. So you can just come and finalize and write length of planks required is equal to 10.5 meters. So that brings us to the end of our solution B. We come to the last one, the last bit, which is C, which you asked, timber of width 15 centimeters. Should be very careful there because we've started dealing with different units. You know, we have centimeters there and meters. Timber of width, you should understand very well. If I have this eraser. That correct? This is the width, and that is the length of that eraser. So if they are talking of timber of width, you'll be looking at this. So timber of width, 15 centimeters, and was nailed above that frame to complete the door. You know, a door cannot just be naked like that. Everything will end, the wind, everything. So you have to complete it with those pieces to make it complete, to complete the door. So how many such pieces were required to cover the structure? So the question has 2 bits. Then what was their total length? You know, if we have a strip here of 15, another one will be here, another one will be here. So the question combines 2 questions. So we have to work out that. So I'll just get some space, but retain the question C. So we go to C, where they are asking, I said the question combines two in one. One, how many such pieces? So if you look at C, it can be, you can now write it as C part 1, because there are 2 questions. So you say, they're asking you number of pieces of timber of width 15 centimeters required. So you'll have to have that timber frame in mind. So it is such a piece. To just it's legible. So that piece have it that. So this is the 15 centimeters. And since it is covering the whole door, its length will still be 2.4 meters. So you should understand very well. You need several of these pieces to cover the whole door. So the number of pieces of timber required, of width required, will be equal to width of door, width of the door, width of the door, divide by, you can use as divide by width of the piece, timber piece. Timber piece. So we have the width of the door. You have the width. You should understand what a width is. If you have that eraser, it goes without saying that this is the width and this is the length. So if I go back to my door, which is the longer side of the door, the longer side of the door is 2.4 meters, and the shorter side, which is the width, is 0.9 meters. So the width of the door, isn't it? Should note that from my diagram, this is the same as width, the width of the door. So the width of my door is 0.9 meters, and the width of the piece, I've shown you, the width of the piece is what? 15 centimeters. You have to be very careful there, because we are now dividing. You cannot start dividing until you change the units into one unit. You should either change these units to centimeters or change to meters. So in most cases, to divide easily, we change to the lower unit. So this should be at your fingertips. You should know how many centimeters make a meter. It goes without saying that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So you should not start dividing until you change into a common unit, which is what? Centimeters. So to move ahead, you'll need to change this. So it will be 0.9 times 100 centimeters divided by 15 centimeters. We are still dealing with decimals. Yeah, there we've not stopped. You see here we have a decimal, which should be retained in the answer. So you say 100 times 9. 100 times 9, 900. But retain the decimal place. Divide by 15 centimeters. 15 centimeters. So it will be 90 centimeters divided by 15 centimeters. If you work out this well, 90 divided by 15, you'll get the centimeters cancel with the centimeters, because now my answer will not be centimeters. It will be the number of pieces. It will not have unit. It will just be number of pieces. So I'll get how many pieces? 6 pieces. 6 pieces are required to cover that door. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, each having a length of what? 2.4 centimeters. That brings us to the second question, part 2. Part 2, where they are asking you, what is the total length of the pieces? Total length of the pieces. This will be equal to length of each piece length of each piece multiplied by the number of pieces. So you ask yourself, have you got the number of pieces? Yes, it was in the first part of the question. It is how many pieces? 6 pieces. So you'll come back here. From the piece I drew, what is the length of the piece? What is the length of the piece? The length of the piece is this one. So you should note that this is the length of the piece. So I'll move ahead, having known the length of the piece, which is 2.4 meters times 6. So I'll work out there, retain the decimal places. You are still dealing with decimals. After multiplying, retain your decimal place. 4 times 6, 24. Carry 2. 2 times 6, 12. 12 plus 2, 14. But retain your decimal place. So this will work out to 14.4 meters, isn't it? So total length of the pieces will be equal to 14.4 meters. That culminates to my answer. So you look carefully at the workings. There are 2 things which we've noted. There are 2 very important things we've noted. When we are dividing meters and centimeters, isn't it? We needed to change to the lower unit, the smallest unit. So at this point, you should be able to know the relationships between all those units, be it a kilometer, a hectometer, a decimeter, a meter, isn't it? A millimeter. You should be able to note that. We even have the decameter. So we also have the decameter. So you should have those tips of measurements when you come to calculating such questions. So we've come to the end of the lesson by working out question number 3. So I'll have to give you one question from the same exercise, Primary People's Book 8. Now question number 1, because you've already done 3, and the question reads, most of you have this copy, a copy of that. You have a copy of that. So the question reads, a builder, and you find most of these questions we've been doing, talking about a builder, a carpenter. So it goes, a builder constructed a ramp to take material to the top of a building 3 meters high. A sketch is shown in the book of that. Then you are told the distance between the foot of the ramp and the foot of the wall is 4 meters. So the questions then come. A, what is the length of the ramp? B, if the width of the ramp is 1.05 meters, how many 15 centimeter wide pieces of timber are required to cover the width? And lastly, C, the cost of 1 meter by 15 centimeter piece of timber is 54 shillings and 50 cents. How much did the builder spend? How much did the builder spend on timber used to build the ramp? So if after working the question, you'll have better experience of the revision we did on the question we just worked out. So thank you very much, and let's meet in the next lessons.
Welcome to our physics lesson today. My name is Purity Anzelimo, your teacher of physics. In our lesson today, we continue with the cathode rays and the cathode ray tube. That's our topic. Cathode rays and the cathode ray tube. During our previous lesson, we have been looking at the parts of a cathode ray oscilloscope, and we were able to know that a cathode ray oscilloscope is used in the production of cathode rays, and we were able to see the three major parts of a cathode ray oscilloscope, namely the electron gun. We also have the deflecting system and also the screen or the display system. So those were the major parts, or those are the major parts of a CRO. In the electron gun, we have the cathode, that is the heated cathode, the ground, and the anodes. In the deflecting system, we have the X plates and the Y plates. And in the display system, we have the screen. So during our lesson today, we continue with the cathode ray oscilloscope, but now we want to look at the uses of a CRO. So uses of a CRO, uses of a cathode ray oscilloscope. And we are going to look at two major uses of a cathode ray oscilloscope. We are going to explain each one of them. So one of the uses of a cathode ray oscilloscope is used as a voltmeter. So number one, used as a voltmeter. A cathode ray oscilloscope is used as a voltmeter. We know from the topic current electricity, we know that a voltmeter is a device that is used to measure voltage. So we have the CRO being used to measure voltage. So we are going to explain how. Then again, we can use a CRO to determine the frequency of an alternating current signal, used in determining the frequency of an alternating current signal. So we will also explain how a CRO can be used to determine the frequency. Remember, we know what frequency means. When we talk of frequency, simply refers to the number of complete oscillations in 1 second. So it can also be used in determining the frequency of an alternating current signal. So I want us to start with the first one. We have seen that a cathode ray oscilloscope can be used as a voltmeter. So CRO as a voltmeter, our CRO as a voltmeter. And we are going to see that the cathode ray oscilloscope will have many advantages over the voltmeters that